So those people say to us, where you got this understanding of religion from? You talk about that all this logical stuff, that God is no beginning and no end, he has no place, and where you got all of this stuff? Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't talk like this, and his companions didn't talk like that, and the tabi'un didn't talk like that. They don't talk the way you talk. Had this been a good aspect of religion, they would have talked like that, which they did talk like that, but this is what they say. We say to them, you saying that Muhammad came to them with the belief of the Jews and the Christians, that God is a big man in the sky, which is nothing impressive. There's nothing impressive about this belief whatsoever. And he told them about some good manners. He told them, be good to your parents, be good to your neighbors, don't lie, don't steal, etc. That they were so impressed with this, and they fought against all their families for this. This is far-fetched, and this is ugly. For sure, this is not the case. They didn't understand the religion like you do. That's basically what we're saying to them. You people believe what you believe with no mental evidence. You follow your leaders with no rational argumentation, without thinking rationally or logically about what you're being told. When you are confronted with people who tell you things that make sense, it makes so much sense that you think that they're doing a trick on you, so you rejected it. You think that the Prophet and his companions were like that. This is far-fetched, unlikely. Allah refuted in his book those who imitated their parents, their forefathers, in idol worship. They just merely imitated them. They had no proof that they had a correct religion. They just followed the religion of their fathers who came before them. Allah refuted that when he told us what they said. They said, بَلْ قَالُوا إِنَّا وَجَدْنَا آبَاءَنَا عَلَى أُمَّةٍ. We found our parents following a religion. وَإِنَّا عَلَى آثَارِهِمْ مُقْتَدُونَ. And we are followers in their legacy. We found them practicing something, and we practice what they practice. Where's the proof in this ayah? The proof in this ayah is that Allah is telling us this is as much as they could say. They had no proof. They couldn't say, our religion is valid because of X, Y, and Z. Rather, what did they say? They said, this is our religion because that's what our parents' religion was. So Allah dispraised them for that. So we say to those people who ask us, why do we practice rational thinking in our belief? We say to them, Allah dispraised those who had no rational thinking in their belief, and they didn't have any evidence, and all they did was follow their forefathers. Imam Abu al-Muzaffar al-Asfarayini said that you need to know that concerning the fundamental beliefs, that is obligatory on every pubescent, sane person to know its correctness for himself with some sort of mental evidence, even if it's very simple, mental evidence. He needs to have for himself in his mind. The mind is in the heart, by the way. I could say in his heart means in his mind. He needs to know for himself, not just imitating someone with no proof, that his religion is the correct religion, that his belief is the correct belief. And it's not permissible for him to merely imitate in his religion. Even if it's the correct religion, this is what we're saying. Even for the correct religion, which is our religion, it's not permissible just to imitate someone. So, the father cannot imitate his son, and the son cannot imitate his father, and the wife cannot imitate her husband, and the husband cannot imitate his wife in belief, even if it's the correct belief. That means he can't just take that belief and just not even think about the correctness of that belief and just imitate someone without even the slightest rational, logical proof for it. Rather, all of the sane people have the same obligation, whether men or women. That's in reference to the belief. In reference to the rules of the religion, how to pray, how to fast, how to marry, how to divorce, how to sell and buy, etc. It is permissible to imitate the qualified scholars. In fact, it's obligatory. If you're not a qualified person who can deduce judgments, meaning you're not a mujtahid, who can deduce judgments, then you're obligated to imitate a qualified person in the rules. But when it comes to the belief, it's not permissible to just imitate someone. You'll need that someday. Maybe you have a friend. You know, some of us, for example, some people, there's 25 viewers, it says in here. I'm sure that among you, there are people who have some relationship or correspondence with Wahhabis, a working relationship where you can, talk to these people. Those people are just imitators. They claim they don't follow, they don't imitate anybody. Who would believe that Allah is a big man in the sky unless he's an imitator? There's no evidence for that. No rational evidence for that. And so you might need this understanding that we're talking about. Maybe that helps you discuss with a person. You tell them, think for yourself. Think about the validity of your religion. Or even if the person doesn't even claim to be a Muslim. We've heard that talk before from people who are Christians or other religion. They say, well, I believe like that because that's how my parents raised me. That's exactly what those people said in the Quran. What Allah told us. It's the same thing. It's invalid. The meaning of the verse is that those people imitated their forefathers in their shirk, their paganism or idolatry, without any evidence that stands for the validity of that religion that they had. From this, it is understood that the knowledge of evidence is sought. One should have evidence for his religious beliefs. قال أبو حنيفة رضي الله عنه جوابا على القائلين لم تتكلمون بعلم الكلام والصحابة لم يتكلموا فيه. Imam Abu Hanifa, may Allah accept his deeds, responded in answer to those who said, why do you talk with the knowledge of Kalaam and the companions did not talk with it? قال إنما مثلهم كأناس ليس بحضرتهم من يقاتلهم فلم يحتاجوا إلى إبراز السلاح ومثلنا كأناس بحضرتهم من يقاتلهم فاحتاجوا إلى إبراز السلاح. He said, their case is like some people who did not have in their presence who fights them. They did not have in their presence anyone fighting them. So they did not need to wield their weapons. They did not have to pull out their weapons. And our case is like people who have in their presence those who fight them. And so they needed to wield their weapons. So Imam Abu Hanifa is saying, the reason you didn't find this talk among the companions, and that's general anyway, it's not to say that they never spoke like that. They did, but not as frequently and not as detailed, usually. Why? Abu Hanifa says why. because they did not have in their presence people who were fighting them, meaning who were the companions in contact with among the kuffar. For the most part, three types of kuffar for the most part. Mostly was pagans, idol worshippers, and they used to refute them with mental evidence all the time. If you look in the hadiths and you heard the stories of the Sahaba, they used to refute the idol worshippers with mental evidence all the time. Didn't you hear the story of Anis's mother? What's the name of Anis ibn Malik's mother? Somebody remind us, inshallah. She married Abu Talha. Abu Talha was a kafir. She was a Muslimah. He proposed to her. She said to him, I like you. Sulaim, barakallahu feek. She said to him, I like you, and a man like you, a woman would not turn down. She said, but I'm a Muslimah and you are a kafir. She said, don't you know that you worship something that was carved by the slave of such and such clan? He said, yes. She said, aren't you ashamed to worship something that was carved by the slave of such and such clan? So he had no answer for that. He said, let me think about it, meaning let me think about embracing Islam. She told him, if you embrace Islam, I will marry you, and I don't want anything else for my dowry. Just your embracing Islam is enough for my dowry. But don't you see, what did she do to him? That's mental argument. Yeah, that's mental proof. And they did that all the time. Even some of the youths from the Sahaba, if they knew that somebody was an idol worshiper, they'll take his idol and throw his idol in the feces, so he can find his idol in the feces. That was their way of making him think, right? And like that is abundant from the Sahaba. So they certainly used mental proof. They had basically three types of people they encountered. The pagans, mostly, the Jews, and the hypocrites. As for the hypocrites, they used to hide the fact that they were kuffar. They didn't even openly show that they were kuffar. And the Jews, Allah refuted the Jews all throughout the Quran. From Surah Al-Baqarah, all throughout the Quran, Allah exposed them and refuted them. And in the Quran, He refuted the pagans. فَبُهِتَ الَّذِي كَفَرَ هَكَذَا. MashaAllah. But were the companions being confronted by atheists, philosophers? Even when the Prophet ﷺ met with the Christians of Najran, he refuted them with mental evidence. Now, we won't go into the story about that, but we can pull out the stories and read. What did he say to them? He told them things that make perfectly good sense. And the stories of the prophets. Prophet Ibrahim refuted the Nimrod with mental proof. He refuted his people on numerous occasions with mental proof. Prophet Yusuf alayhi salatu wassalam, he said, أَأَرْبَابٌ مُتَفَرِّقُونَ خَيْرٌ أَمِ اللَّهُ الْوَاحِدُ الْقَهَّارُ. He said, is the idea of many gods more sound than the idea of one God who is dominant? Meaning, it's not. It doesn't make any sense. So they had it, but they were not in, their case was not like our case, like the case of Abu Hanifa and like our case. In this day we live in, we have philosophers, we have atheists, we have Mushabbiha, Wahhabis, we have Christians. So we need to have these mental arguments ready. We need to be trained and ready to defend the religion and talk to these people and help them to embrace Islam also. So Imam Abu Hanifa said, their case, the companions, they were like people who did not have in their presence those who fight them so they didn't have to pull their weapons out. It means they had the weapons, but they didn't have to pull it out. They had the knowledge more than we do, but they didn't have to pull it out. And we are like people who have in their presence those who fight them, so we have to pull our weapons out. He said, that's the difference. We both have the weapons. They had the weapons. We had the weapons. They didn't have to pull it out, and we do. That's why we talk with this knowledge of Kalaam, meaning we talk about the knowledge of belief, the same belief that the Prophet and the companions had, but with more details and with more terminologies than they did, because we need to. And we say to them, and if what you mean, if what is meant is that the companions, they did not use to utter these special terminologies that the people of this craft, this science of belief, this science of Kalaam, that they did not use to use the special terms that the scholars of belief, the scholars of Kalaam use, like Jawhar, the indivisible particle, and the Arab, the attribute of the creation, and Jaiz, possible, and Muhal, and impossible, and Hadath, and being created, being an event, something that has a beginning, and Qidam, and being eternal. So if you mean, we say to them also, if you mean that the companions, they didn't used to talk with these special words like the indivisible particle and the qualities of the bodies, and this is possible and that's impossible, and this is an event and this is eternal with no beginning, then this is true. They did not go into these terminologies. However, we then oppose you by comparing that to all the other religious sciences, because it's not reported from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam or his companions that they talked about the abrogating and the abrogated and the general and the vague and the likes of that, like the scholars of tafsir do. Also, it wasn't reported from the Prophet and his companions that they use these words like qiyas, the legal comparison, and the istihsan and the mu'aradah, the seeming conflict in references, and munaqadah, and tarud and shart. The tarud is like a consistency, a consistent rule, and shart is the condition, and the sabab and the illah, and the reasoning behind the proof, and things like this. The Prophet and the Sahaba, they didn't talk like that, like the scholars of fiqh do. But you, Wahhabi, for example, you accept that, you talk like that, even though they didn't talk like that. Later on, the scholars of fiqh, they had to come up with terminologies to talk about these matters in detail. You accepted that, and you talked like that, just like they did. Also, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his companions, they didn't talk about jarh and ta'deel, like discrediting the narrators of the hadith, accrediting and approving the narrators of hadith, and the narrations that came from individuals, and the narrations that came from masses of people, and the authentic, the sahih narration. And other than that, they didn't use these special terminologies, sahih, ahad, mutawatir, like the scholars of hadith do. But you, Wahhabi, you talk like that. You found the scholars of hadith talking like that, even though the Prophet and his companions didn't talk like that. And then you talked like that. So can anyone honestly say that it's obligatory to abandon all of these sciences for this reason? Because the Prophet and his companions didn't use the special terms of these sciences, so we must abandon them? Of course not. So also then, why would you try to abandon the science of Kalaam, which is really just the science of belief? Because there are special terms that are needed to talk about the subjects of this science, the impossible and the impossible and the event, meaning the created thing, and the eternal, the uncreated, and things like that. We need these words. If you want to abandon the science of Kalaam because the Prophet and his companions didn't use these special terms, then you need to abandon all the other sciences, the science of fiqh, the science of hadith, the science of tafsir, the science of Arabic language, all those sciences, because also the Prophet and his companions did not use the special terms of those sciences. And if you accept those, then you have to accept this. And this knowledge, its origin, its base, was existing among the companions in plenitude, in abundance, among them more than others. That is, the companions had an extremely deep knowledge in this regard. They had a powerful understanding of this science of belief and its mental proofs. And the discussion in refuting the people of heresy, the people of innovations, of bad beliefs, it started in the time of the companions. For Ibn Abbas and Ibn Umar, they both refuted the Mu'tazila. That is, they refuted the deniers of destiny. And among the followers, the Tabi'un, Umar bin Abdul Aziz refuted them. And Al-Hasan ibn Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiyyah also refuted them. And Imam Ali, he silenced the Khawarij with evidence. And he silenced an atheist. And he established the evidence against 40 anthropomorphic Jews. You know the story. One of the companions of Imam Ali came to him while he was the Khalifa. He told him, Imam Ali, there's 40 Jews at the door. Wal-'iyadhu billah. Imam Ali said, I'll take care of them. And then he taught them the right belief. After they asked him questions that show that they believe in tashbih. They asked him questions about Allah as if Allah is a creation. So he told them, you Jews, listen to me and don't ask anyone after me. And then he started telling them the right belief. And Ibn Abbas, he refuted the Khawarij also. And Iyas ibn Muawiyah refuted the Qadariyah, those who deny destiny. Not just he refuted them, he silenced them. Qata'a. He cut them off means he silenced them. And the Caliph Umar bin Abdul Aziz silenced the followers of Shawdhab al-Khariji. And he authored a document, a small booklet, in refuting the Mu'tazila. فإن قيل روى البيهقي بإسناد صحيح عن ابن عباس أنه قال تفكروا في كل شيء ولا تفكروا في ذات الله فهو منهي عنه. So if it were said, so that means the Wahhabis said to us, because all of this talk is about the Wahhabis, whether you knew that or not. Who is opposing us in this issue? The Wahhabis. Who else? The people who have no brains, who liken Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala to the creation, and their arguments are like wet tissue. Their arguments are as tough as wet tissue. They cannot refute us. They cannot debate with us. They cannot stand up against us and box with us. They won't win. So then what is their tactic? Their tactic is to say, it's not permissible to box. You understand the analogy? What they're saying is you cannot fight. It's not permissible. They're saying this science of Kalaam that you're using is haram. You cannot talk like that. So we will refute them. Yeah, we can talk like this. And we will smash you. Now, it doesn't have to be your intention just to smash them. Really, your intention is to help them. And I'm reminding myself, your intention is to help the person so he can embrace Islam, not just to smash him. But if it were me, and he doesn't want to be helped, then I want to smash him. If you don't want to smash him, you don't have to. So if it were said, meaning if the Wahhabi said to us, Imam al-Bayhaqi narrated with an authentic chain back to Ibn Abbas, that he said, that Ibn Abbas said, think about everything, means think about the creations, and do not think about the self of Allah. That's the quote of Ibn Abbas. So the Wahhabi says to us, the opponent says to us, Al-Bayhaqi narrated with an authentic chain back to Ibn Abbas that he said, that Ibn Abbas said, think about all the creations and don't think about the self of Allah. But of course, the Wahhabi doesn't understand this statement. To the Wahhabi, what this means is, just believe that Allah is a big man in the sky and don't think about it. You can think about everything else. Don't even try to understand. That's what it means to a Wahhabi. So he will say, Ibn Abbas said, think about everything else and don't think about the self of Allah. So then that's forbidden. You cannot try to understand in his understanding. What he wants to say to you is, you cannot try to understand how Allah is living in the sky and he goes up and down in the nighttime. The answer is that the prohibition that came in this narration of Ibn Abbas came about thinking about the Creator. So we were forbidden to try to understand the reality of the Creator, while we were commanded to think about the creation. فَإِنَّهُ يُوجِبُ النَّظَرَ وَإِعْمَالَ الْفِكْرِ وَالتَّأَمُّلِ فِي مَلَكُوتِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ لِيُسْتَدَلَّ بِذَلِكَ عَلَى وُجُودِ الصَّانِعِ. Because thinking about the creation triggers pondering and reflecting and contemplating on the kingdom of the heavens and earth, meaning the creations. So to use that to prove the existence of the Creator, and that he does not resemble any of his creation. And whoever does not know the difference between the Creator and the creation, how can he even apply this athar? We learned that word in hadith terminology, right? This athar. How can he even apply this athar if he doesn't know the difference between the Creator and the creation? This, what he's saying, is very profound, is deep, brothers and sisters. MashaAllah. It means this. If someone believes that Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala is a body that lives in the sky, that means that he believes that Allah is a creation, even though he doesn't know that. But he believes that Allah is a creation. So he doesn't know the difference between the Creator and the creation. So how can he apply this statement of Ibn Abbas? Because Ibn Abbas is saying, think about all the creations and don't think about the self of Allah. And this Wahhabi is believing that Allah is a creation. So he doesn't know the difference between the Creator and the creation. So how can he apply what Ibn Abbas is saying? How can he not think about the Creator? How can he not think about the reality of the Creator when that's exactly what he's doing? He's trying to understand the reality of the Creator, and his mind was weak. So since his mind was weak, he imagined a body in the sky, and he thought that if it's something that he cannot imagine, it doesn't exist. So he disobeyed Ibn Abbas, and he thought about the reality of the Creator, and he arrived at a picture, and he didn't even think about the creation so that he could make a difference between the Creator and the creation. He didn't think about the creation so that he could say Allah is not like this creation. Did you understand that? This is why, brothers and sisters, the scholars said, whoever believes that Allah is a body has no way to prove that the world is created. Whoever believes that Allah is a body has no way to prove that the world is created. Who doesn't understand that statement? And it's okay, because we'll clarify it. I'm just testing the profoundness of that statement. Whoever believes that Allah is a body has no way to prove that the world is created. Why? Because isn't the world made up of bodies and attributes of bodies? Yes, this is what the world is made of. The world is made of bodies, right? Your phone is a body, your laptop is a body, you are a body, your house is a body, the sun is a body. The world is made of bodies and the qualities of these bodies, the attributes of these bodies, the colors and the motion and the stillness and the smells, etc. So the world is just a collection of bodies with their attributes. And God is not created, right? Right. So if someone believes that Allah is a body, then he would be believing that Allah is an uncreated body, that Allah is a body that's not created. Then if it's possible or valid to have a body that's not created, then how can he prove that the world is created? Whatever he would use to prove that the world is created would apply to what he worships. Then he would be confessing that what he worships is created. So then he won't use that reasoning. He won't think about it like that. He doesn't want to prove that he worships a creation. So then what's left? He has no way to prove that the world is created. Because whatever he used to prove that the world is created can be used against him to prove that what he worships is created, because he worships a body. And that's why also some scholars said the one who believes that Allah is a body has denied the existence of the Creator. Meaning, he is an unwitting atheist. He doesn't even know that in reality he's an atheist. Because if he believes that Allah is a body, and he believes that God has to be in a place, he has to have a direction, and he has to have some material existence, or else you're denying his existence as if his existence is impossible, then he has in effect actually unwittingly denied the existence of God. He's an unwitting atheist. Did you understand that? Yes, I'll repeat it for you. Some scholars said that the one who believes that Allah must be in a place and he must have a direction, or else you'll be denying his existence, and that he must be something that can be pointed to in a direction. He must be someone who has dimensions, even if he doesn't use the word dimensions. And he must be someone who is in a direction from something else. So he believes that Allah must be a body. Then he has unwittingly denied the existence of the Creator. Why are we saying unwittingly? Because he's not saying God doesn't exist. He's not saying that. The atheist is blatantly saying God doesn't exist. The mushabbih, the one who likens Allah to the creation, is not saying God doesn't exist. Not blatantly, not wittingly, not knowingly. He's not doing it purposefully. He's doing it ignorantly. He's unwittingly denying the existence of God. So he's an unwitting atheist, because he described God with what is not his description, And he denied that what is the description of God could be correct. So he's an atheist without realizing it.